On the 18th of April 1943, 4 young Stourbridge boys were exploring the Hagley Woods near Wychbury Hill. They discovered a large witch elm and upon climbing it uncovered the body of a young woman. Who she is and why she was left in the tree remain a mystery to this day. The locals merely know her as Bella, and the question still stands. Who put Bella in the witch elm? The mystery of Bella is one that has endured for nearly 8 decades. This may be down to the strange graffiti that appeared on Wychbury Hill, or just the odd circumstances of the case. But what do we know about Bella herself? Jane Harris is an expert on the case and gave us information about what exactly was found in the tree.
When the remains of Bella were found, there was only fragments of clothing left. They knew that she'd had a woolen type skirt on. They also knew that her shoes were very cheap, poorly made shoes, probably from a market or a very cheap shop. She also had a very cheap wedding ring, which was similar to something I've been told that you'd buy in Argos or something. So it was a very cheap rolled gold wedding ring. She apparently had mousy, wavy hair. They knew this because there was a small patch remaining on the skull, on the flesh of the skull when she was found. The most distinctive feature apparently was her crooked front teeth. They were apparently quite noticeable, and it was said that anyone who knew her would be able to identify her simply by hearing about her teeth. She was only 5 feet tall, so she wasn't very tall at all, and that helps to rule out some of the potential victims, because there are a couple of ladies who people believe she may have been, but one of them in particular was almost 6 feet tall. So she was ruled out immediately.
But why has this case endured for so long? Why, 75 years later, does it catch the eye as an outstanding mystery? Local historian and author Andrew Spark tells us more.
And to this day, she has not been identified. We don't know who she was, we don't know who and why she was killed. But there are absolute theories in abundance about what she was doing and how she ended up in the tree. And they range from the supernatural to espionage. There are confessions allegedly made as to people who might have been involved, but none of them have been proven. So we've got this amazing mystery that just grows and grows and grows.
The distinct lack of evidence, apart from the body itself, is one of the key factors as to why this mystery is still talked about today. The bizarre circumstance of the body being found in an old wych elm tree has only served to baffle the police and amateur sleuths alike. There have been many theories as to who and why Bella was left in this tree.
There are a range of different theories. Some of the most popular are that she could have been a witch. Another popular theory is that she was a Nazi spy, so that espionage was involved. There's also a theory that she was just a local lady who worked in a local pub. Some people think she may have been a prostitute.
When the body was discovered, and the police weren't getting very far with the sort of fairly traditional theories, i.e. was she somebody trying to get home late at night from escaping from the Birmingham Blitz? Was she a prostitute, who'd been left there by who was killed by a client? Was it a love affair that had gone wrong? What was it? And none of that seemed to be bringing any real possibilities at all. And there were a number of elements about the body, foreign dentistry, no labels in the clothing, whole series of things which seemed to point to something else. And an eminent professor from London, Margaret Murray, intervened because she had a theory that it was a witchcraft murder, mainly on the basis that the hand had been severed and was buried separately.
But why was Professor Murray so obsessed with this hand?
She felt that it was the hand of glory, which is the process by which a severed hand is removed and buried away from the body. Again, the belief is that this will prevent the soul from rising. Some people would look for these hands, and if they found them, they believed by mummifying them and keeping them, it would help them in life. It would give them long life and good luck. The fact that she was in an elm tree in the beginning, some people felt that that indicated in itself that she may have been a witch, because the wood from elm trees was traditionally used to make coffins. And there is an ancient ritual which says that if you bury a witch in a hollow tree, it prevents the soul from rising again. So some people felt that that in itself was enough to suggest she had been a witch.
This theory, however, did not hold much tact with investigators. Criminologist Adam Lyons explains why.
One of the main criticisms or limitations of this theory is simply that it is rather outlandish. This thought that in some way a cult was involved is quite hard to believe, and again the evidence for that is rather minimal.
They're in the cockpits of their Spitfires and Hurricanes before you can say Bob's your uncle. There's a job of work for these pilots, and boy do they love their work. Way up in the sky there are Messerschmitts, Junkers, Henkels or Dorniers that are going to get the thrashing of their lives. Here they come, Jerry, you rotten swastinkers, you.
Bella's body was discovered right in the midst of World War II. With the evidence that we have, it is plausible that Bella could have been a Nazi spy reporting from the West Midlands.
One of the theories, of course, is that Bella was a cabaret singer named Clara Barrel, who was born in Stuttgart and worked in the Birmingham area, and apparently was working on behalf of the Nazis. They chose her because she had quite a good Birmingham accent, apparently, so she could blend in quite well. The reason people thought she may be Bella is, for one, they thought maybe English-speaking audiences misheard the name Clara Barrel as Clara Bella, and so Clara Bella got thrown around. But also, there was a report of a parachute drop on the Clent Hills, and the Halesowen Home Guard went to investigate. This was about 2 years before the discovery of the body. And when they investigated, they found parachute harnesses, but they didn't find any people. It was later discovered that a man called Joseph Jacobs, a spy, had been dropped in the country, and on him he had a photograph of a lady, and that lady was Clara Barrel, the cabaret singer. Now he said that he was supposed to meet her in the area, but that she never radioed through.
So could Bella, or indeed Clara, have been killed by locals or even the authorities for being a German spy?
It's really strange that there have been people involved in the archiving of some of the police artefacts who subsequently were quite high up in MI5. So we've got that connection. We've got the issues about what Churchill may or may not have ordered the secret units of the Home Guard to do in the event of invasion. You know, whether in fact she might have been killed completely illegally as a spy.
With this evidence in mind, is it plausible that this was the reason for her murder? Or does this seem just as fantastical as witchcraft?
So while this theory about Bella being a spy is perhaps a bit more plausible than her being a victim of a cult crime, there are a number of things to consider. Firstly, that murder tends to involve the victim knowing the offender. It tends to be someone in the family, or an acquaintance or a former lover, and the idea of a big grand conspiracy, despite the time period being somehow involved in this, is still a bit far-fetched.
One of the theories is that Bella was a prostitute. It came about because a few years after the body was discovered, a Birmingham prostitute came forward to police and said that her friend Bella, who had apparently worked on Hagley Road at the time of the lady's discovery, the body's discovery, had gone missing. She said that at that time they didn't really think twice about the fact that she'd gone missing because prostitutes moved around quite a lot. But I personally don't think that that's a very strong theory, because the clothing that the lady was wearing wouldn't reflect what a prostitute may have been wearing. She was dressed quite old for a year. She was in her 30s, but she was dressed more like a lady in her 50s. Very flat, sensible shoes. She was wearing a wedding ring, long woolen skirt. It didn't really tie in for me, the fact that she would have been a prostitute. And also the fact that the other prostitute from Birmingham waited years before coming forward to police. And she said that, you know, they moved around quite a lot, but actually they tended to have their patch that they worked on, and if she had gone missing from Hagley Road, it would have been noticed fairly immediately, I would have thought.
Although our case expert Jane Harris feels this theory is the most unlikely, criminologist Adam Lyons disagrees.
An interesting thing about this theory of her being a sex worker is that despite it being one of the lesser known theories, from a criminological point of view, it makes the most sense. Sex workers have historically been victims of murder from the time of Jack the Ripper to Peter Sutcliffe in the 1970s. Sex workers have often been victims because they're marginalised and live outside of our moral framework. And because of that, they tend to get ignored or isolated and don't really have anyone who to care for them. And that could be one of the reasons as to why this is a mystery, why no one's come forward with identification of who this person is, because they simply might not have had anyone.
With so much contrasting evidence, ideas and theories, the case of Hooper Bella in the Witch Elm remains a mystery to this day. Who she really was and why she was left to decompose in the tree are questions that may never get answered. We asked Jane Harris to sum up what this case means to her.
The case of Hooper Bella in the Witch Elm is intriguing, infuriating, fascinating and endlessly inspiring, because no matter who you are or where you're from, if you don't know the story, by the time someone's finished telling you the story, you're interested in it. And that's the thing about the case. If you Google top 10 mysteries of all time, chances are you will find Hooper Bella in the Witch Elm in there, despite the fact that Hagley is a very small rural village in Worcestershire. It's not a city, it's not somewhere that would have been heard of in America, for example, but they may have heard of this story. I don't think we'll ever know who she was, and again, that's what makes it endlessly fascinating. It's inspired books, films, documentaries, TV series, paintings, and I think it will continue to inspire for a long, long time.
It's now down to you, mystery solvers. Only you can help solve this most intriguing of mysteries. Download our free Mystery Solver app to have your say and to finally uncover who put Bella in the Witch Elm.